Ash, if you keep fiddling with that thing, the band's gonna break. These words of light admonition come from Raihan, as Ash, for what must be the 1000th time, examines his new Dynamax band. It has been about a week since his battle with Nessa, and Ashby and Raihan are almost at turf field. Ash replies that he knows, but he just can't wait to test out Dynamaxing for himself, and his gym battle is going to be the first chance he can get. Pikachu squeaks his agreement, and Ash grins at his partner, saying that at least he gets it, while B sighs that she isn't a fan of Dynamaxing. Just like Mega Evolution, it's an unearned power-up that allows the mediocre to surpass those who have put the effort into becoming strong. Raihan shakes his head, saying that he doesn't subscribe to that sort of black and white thinking, but he understands where B's coming from. After all, Chairman Rose did say she studied under Master Mustard, didn't he? B nods, saying that she was his disciple for many years, before asking how Raihan knows of him. Raihan grins that Leon used to study under the old master as well, and he told him all about those days on the island. B nods once more, face impassive as ever, while Ash's is strained in confusion. He then asks who this mustard guy is, and to his surprise, B gets quite animated in her answer, eagerly telling Ash that Master Mustard is the former champion of the Galar region, and the world's foremost fighting type specialist. She then adds that since relinquishing his title, he has set up a small dojo on an island east of Galar, and only takes on a few students at a time, but each of his students have gone on to achieve great things, like Leon, who became champion after Mustard. Ash beams that that's so cool, and he would love to try battling him someday, but B, snapping back to her usual stoicism at a dizzying pace, bluntly declares that though he is strong, Master Mustard would wipe the floor with him. Ash pouts a little at this vote of no confidence, saying that he's a champion too, you know, but Raihan grins that Ash shouldn't worry about that, since right now all that matters is his battle with Milo. This mollifies Ash somewhat, and he acknowledges Raihan's point, saying that he's just going to keep doing his best, and maybe one day he'll get that battle with Mustard. About an hour later they arrive at Turf Field, and Ash heads over to request a gym battle. The gym leader is a barrel-chested young man with messy auburn hair and a friendly smile, and when he sees Ash he beams, saying that he's a big fan. Ash smiles modestly and says that he's looking forward to their battle. However, Milo, still in that chirpy tone, says there's no point. Ash looks puzzled, so Milo continues that Ash has already beaten both Nessa and Kabu, who are stronger than him, so it would be a waste of Ash's time to battle him as well. He then holds out a grass badge for Ash, and tells him to take it, still smiling. Ash doesn't like this, and asks Milo what he thinks he's doing. He can't just go giving away gym badges like that, but Milo placidly says that he is the weakest gym leader in Galar, and he's made peace with that, but he doesn't want to waste anyone's time by making them battle him when they both already know they're better than him. By now Raihan and B have entered the gym, with the former catching wind of this conversation, and so joining Ash in his dissatisfaction. He says this isn't like Milo. When they battled in the Champion Cup, he fought his heart out to become the new champion, but Milo points out that Raihan knocked him out in the first round, just like the previous year's opponent did, and the year before that, and the year before that. He then pats his fellow gym leader on the shoulder and smiles that he's alright, really. He's just accepted his lot in life, and so now is just trying to fulfill his role in the pecking order. Something about this fatalism gets under Ash's skin, and he snaps at the burly man, why doesn't he just quit then? Everyone looks a little startled by this outburst, but Ash presses on, saying that the heart of being a trainer is always growing stronger alongside your Pokemon, so if Milo is ready to just settle, then he has no right to keep calling himself a trainer. Milo placidly says that Ash is right, and offers him the badge again, but Ash refuses, saying that he's been excited for days to challenge Milo, so he wants his battle, but he wants it against the guy Raihan described from the tournament. Milo shrugs that he'd love to help, but he's not that guy anymore. He's accepted his fate. However, Raihan has an idea, and so suggests that why doesn't Milo use his Champion Cup team in their battle, since he assembled it in the hopes of battling Leon, and just like Leon, Ash is a regional champion. Milo says he'd be open to that, and asks if Ash is alright with a 5-on-5 battle. Ash nods, and so the pair agree to have their match first thing tomorrow morning. Heading over to the Pokemon Center next, B asks Ash if he's going to catch 2 more Pokemon for tomorrow or whether he'll draw on his reserves again. Ash says he's going with the latter, since it seems to him that Milo's forgotten the importance of striving, so he's going to bring back a few friends who have never stopped striving to be the best they can be, no matter what life has thrown at them. B nods approvingly, saying that they sound like they possess the spirit of true warriors, while Raihan grins that he thinks Ash's brand of blunt force care might be exactly what Milo needs right now. The next morning comes, and so Ash, B, and Raihan return to the gym. When Ash takes to the field, he sees that Milo still bears that resigned smile on his face, and even offers Ash one last chance to just take the gym badge and be on his way. Ash ardently refuses, and so Milo sighs that he supposes it's time to battle. Both trainers then choose their first Pokemon, with Milo opening with Cherrim while Ash starts the match off with Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur looks delighted to be battling alongside Ash again, and Ash shares this joy, bending down to pat his old friend. From across the field, Milo asks if he can take a close look at Bulbasaur as well, and when Ash nods, Bulbasaur scampers across the field and lets Milo scratch it behind the ears. He then beams that with such a well-raised grass type on his side, Ash might be better qualified to be the grass gym leader than he is, causing Ash to face fall that even now Milo's looking at things through a defeatist lens. Getting to his feet, Ash sighs they'll just have to wait and see, since right now Milo is the leader, and he's fired up to battle for his badge. Milo gives an understanding flick of the head, and so Bulbasaur returns to Ash's side of the field so the battle can begin. The match opens with Milo half-heartedly calling for a sunny day, and so Cherrim squeals its eagerness to please as it throws its hands into the air and forms a miniature sun there. It then tosses the sun high above everyone, and as the rays shine down upon them, the Blossom Pokemon's petals open to reveal its sunshine form. However, its happy face isn't visible for long, as Ash, recognizing the benefit of the sunny day, calls for a Solar Beam. Charging instantly, Solar Beam shoots across the field, and when Milo doesn't immediately react to tell his Pokemon to dodge, it is caught up in the blast and sent crashing into the wall, where it slumps unconscious. Milo next brings out his Eldegoss and calls for a Cotton Spore. However, due to Bulbasaur's typing, it's immune to this attack. Ash points this out, and Milo's response is a self-deprecating chuckle, as he admits that he probably should have remembered that. Ash then calls for another instant Solar Beam, but at least this time Milo has the wherewithal to call for a Protect. The beam of light dissipates against the Psychic Shield, and so Ash calls for another, which Milo also dispassionately tells Eldegoss to block with Protect. However, a third repeat of this does not go in the gym leader's favour, and the power of Solar Beam shatters the Protect, causing Eldegoss to take the full brunt of the attack. Ash then has Bulbasaur switch over to Razor Leaf, and as the leaves slice into Eldegoss, it falls forward and is declared unable to battle as well. Milo returns his second Pokemon, but before he can bring out his third, Ash yells out to the gym leader, calling him a disappointment. Milo agrees, saying that it's like he told Ash, he's the weakest gym leader. However, Ash snaps that this isn't why he's a disappointment, it's because he's disrespecting his Pokemon. Milo looks confused, so Ash continues that both of the gym leader's Pokemon have given their all to win this battle for him, but he hasn't done the same for them, since he's already given up on trying to be better. He then goads that from where he's standing, it looks like Milo doesn't care for them at all. Showing the first sign of anything other than placidity, Milo snaps back that he loves his Pokemon, and Ash grins, having gotten exactly the reaction he was hoping for, and so tells Milo that if that's true, why doesn't he show it by dropping this nonsense about who's strongest and weakest and just trying to win? Milo yells back that he will, and then his eyes go wide as he realizes what Ash is doing. The gym leader then looks at the Pokeballs in his hands, and though Ash can't hear what he whispers to them over the cheering of the crowd, he can tell from the look on Milo's face that it's a renewal of their bonds of partnership. There is fire in Milo's eyes as he looks back up at Ash, and with what Ash believes is his first genuine smile, the gym leader sends in his Zarina. Landing gracefully, Zarina shows its strength by throwing a flurry of kicks into the air, and both Ash and Bulbasaur grin, eager to face a real challenge at last. Keeping up this kicking motif, Milo has Zarina leap towards Bulbasaur with a Trop Kick, though the grass poison type manages to narrowly duck underneath the blow. However, it turns out that this was only a feint, as Zarina immediately somersaults forward and drives a super effective Zen headbutt onto the top of Bulbasaur's skull. Bulbasaur staggers, and so Zarina capitalizes on this to launch another Trop Kick, which hooks Bulbasaur under the chin and sends it spinning into the air. Thinking fast, Ash has Bulbasaur use Vine Whip to anchor itself to Zarina, and so as the stretchy vines extend and wrap around one of its wrists, Bulbasaur jerks to a halt, and comes rocketing back. Spinning in midair, Bulbasaur then delivers a kick of its own as it plants both of its hind legs into Zarina's chest, making the fruit Pokemon recoil. It then follows up with a Razor Leaf, but Zarina avoids this by springing into the air in preparation for a high jump kick. Ash tells Bulbasaur to keep up the Razor Leaves to knock it off course, but Zarina's outstretched leg manages to break through all of them and soon finds purchase on Bulbasaur's face. The grass dinosaur is blown back, but even in this moment of peril it is experienced enough to fire off more Razor Leaves. These have the dual purpose of redirecting its fall so it lands on its feet, but also damaging Zarina as the leaves slice its arms, torso, and most importantly legs. Zarina then goes in for another Trop Kick, but Ash's Bulbasaur knock it aside with Vine Whip. A loud crack fills the arena as Zarina's kick is deflected, but like the first time, Zarina goes for a Zen Headbutt. Ash and Bulbasaur know this trick now, and so Bulbasaur scoots between the other grass type's legs, lashing at Zarina's legs once more with Vine Whip as it goes. Zarina then leaps up once more with High Jump Kick, and Ash grins, ordering a Solar Beam. With the sun now long gone, this takes time, which is a resource that Bulbasaur doesn't have, as Zarina comes hurtling down towards it. An excited smile on his face, Milo tells Ash that though Bulbasaur fought valiantly, it's time for this match to end. Ash in turn gives an identical smile and says that he agrees. He then calls for a Vine Whip on the ground, and Bulbasaur does exactly that, propelling itself up just as Zarina comes down. The crash damage from this failed attack is tremendous, and as Zarina attempts to get up from it, it can't thanks to all the damage Bulbasaur had previously inflicted on its legs. This unfortunately puts it in a prime position for an attack, and as Bulbasaur finishes charging up Solar Beam, it lets loose and obliterates Zarina. Like the last two Pokemon, Milo returns Zarina to its ball, but this time there is something in Milo's body language that says he will not allow Zarina's sacrifice to have been in vain. Milo's penultimate Pokemon is Ludicolo, and as the carefree Pokemon bathes Bulbasaur in a fierce gaze, Bulbasaur attempts to return the look, despite feeling fairly fatigued after 3 back-to-back battles. Bulbasaur attempts to open the battle with Vine Whip, but is blindsided when Ludicolo uses a hitherto unforeseen speed to tear its way across the pitch and body slam the smaller grass type. He then follows up with a Fake Out to knock it away, before shifting seamlessly into a Seed Bomb. Bulbasaur is able to counterattack this last one, firing off a Razor Leaf which hits the Seed Bomb and detonates it prematurely, causing both Pokemon to get caught up in the explosion. When the smoke clears, both Pokemon are still standing, and so fire off their next attacks, Razor Leaf for Bulbasaur and Waterfall for Ludicolo. This allows Ludicolo to zip forward once more, 2 orbs of water forming under its feet that lift it off the ground. And when Ludicolo leaps off them and into the air, the orbs crash into Bulbasaur, sending it tumbling backwards. Ludicolo then somersaults and attempts to crush Bulbasaur with another body slam, but frantically, Ash calls for Bulbasaur to stop it, and so the bold Pokemon does so by shooting out its vines, wrapping them around Ludicolo's middle and swinging down as hard as it can, so that Ludicolo goes crashing face first into the ground. While Ludicolo is incapacitated, Ash has Bulbasaur charge up a Solar Beam, and by the time the Grass Water type sits up, it is too late to do anything other than be caught up in the blast. Once more smoke obscures Ludicolo from view, but Milo cheers that it'll take more than that to take down Ludicolo, since it's one of his oldest friends. Ash says the same is true of Bulbasaur, with it in fact being the Pokemon who's been with him the longest except for Pikachu. Milo grins that it shows, and then when Ludicolo does emerge, battered but still conscious, the battle resumes. Milo once more takes the offensive, this time calling for a barrage of seed bombs, and so with an immense effort, Ludicolo sends dozens of explosive seeds into the air. Grinning, Milo declares that Bulbasaur, for all its impressive battling ability, won't be able to shoot down all those seeds before they hit it, but Ash smiles that they don't have to, they just need to hit one. Milo looks astonished, but Bulbasaur knows what Ash is thinking, and without hesitation it fires off a singular razor-sharp leaf. On impact with the nearest seed, it detonates, and this creates a chain reaction as the explosion from the previous seed reaches the next one, setting them all off in mid-air. The stadium is rocked to its foundations, and people in the first few rows of the stands are forced to shield their eyes in the face of the explosion. When it settles, the grassy pitch has been entirely burned away, with bits of the cracked cement base jutting out like pillars of rock. On both sides of the field lie an unconscious Pokemon, though even in loss, Ash feels deep pride and gratitude towards Bulbasaur. It fought its hardest for him, and when it went out, it did so on its own terms, taking its opponent with it. Both trainers then bring out their next Pokemon, which for Milo is also his last. It is his Appleton, a bulky looking turtle grass type, which perfectly matches Ash's, who is Torterra. Ash tells Milo that while Bulbasaur never stopped striving to be the best it could be in its first form, Torterra faced a whole other set of challenges as it evolved to its final form, and had to overcome issues around its size and weight. Nevertheless, it never stopped trying, and so now stands before him as a testament to the value of perseverance. Milo grins that he sees Ash plan these two Pokemon very carefully to help snap him out of his funk, and for that he's grateful, so to show his gratitude, he's gonna give Ash his absolute all. Ash fist pumps that he expects nothing less, and so Milo withdraws Appleton in order to Gigantamax it. Gmax Appleton is much more serpentine in appearance, and when it spots Torterra, it fires off Gmax Sweetness. A giant blast of spectral green energy fires at Torterra. However, Ash, quick as ever, spots a particularly tall small outcropping of concrete, and so calls for a rock climb. At once, Torterra's claws extend, and it runs almost vertically up the pillar, dodging the blast and leaping at Appleton. It then slams into it with its full weight, but due to the bulk of the Gigantamax grass type, Appleton is able to shrug this off and swat it back to the ground with its tail. Torterra cries in pain, and Ash thrusts out his arm in panic, calling to see if it's alright. As he does, he spots his own Dynamax band, and so comes up with an idea that might just win him the match. Recalling Torterra, he allows its ball to grow several times and glow pink as he has seen his previous gym leader opponents do. He then throws it with both hands, and is awed as the already large Torterra becomes truly massive. Ash then tells Torterra to use Energy Ball, but instead a series of mushrooms burst up all over the field, several emerging under Appleton, which seems to give it no end of discomfort. As a result, Appleton uses that spectral energy move which Milo calls G-Max Sweetness to mow down the mushrooms, slicing them in half like a laser beam. It then switches over to a Max Wormwind, as Ash has Torterra use Synthesis to heal itself. However, instead of healing, the move creates a reflective circle in front of Torterra, which absorbs Appleton's attack, then dissipates. Milo calls this a clever strategy using Max Guard, but Ash doesn't have a clue what he's talking about, and is equally surprised when Appleton glows pink then shrinks back down to its normal size. Knowing that this must mean Torterra's time in its Dynamax state is coming to an end as well, he calls for another rock climb. However, instead of growing claws, Torterra simply raises a leg and stomps down on the apple, turning into proverbial puree. Torterra is then engulfed in the pink glow as well, but when it shrinks down to its normal size, Appleton lies across from it, unconscious. Ash hugs Torterra as Milo approaches with a big smile on his face, and thanks him for helping him find his passion again. Ash says it was his pleasure, though we would like to know why Torterra's moves were all weird when it Dynamaxed. Milo explains the concept of max moves to him, as well as the ones that Torterra should be able to use, and Ash thanks him for this information, clasping hands with him as he at last accepts Milo's grass badge. A short while later, Ash, B and Raihan return to the Pokemon Center, so Ash can get Bulbasaur and Torterra healed and sent back home. While there, Ash asks his friends which gym is next, and Raihan replies that since Ash now has completed the minor league, he is eligible to face any of the major gyms, and the closest one would actually be his. Ash beams that he'd love a rematch, but before they can sort out the details, Nurse Joy approaches him and asks if his name is Ash Ketchum. Ash says that it is, and so Joy smiles that he has a call waiting from Professor Oak. Ash in turn smiles and so follows the nurse to the phone bank, where one of the screens shows Oak's face. Once he is seated, Oak asks Ash how he's been, and the boy tells his mentor about how he's just won his third badge, a feat which impresses the professor. Ash then asks why Oak called him, and the old man answers that he'll be returning to Kanto soon, and so wants Ash to meet him in Wedgehurst like they agreed, so he can introduce him to Professor Magnolia. Ash knows that name from somewhere, but at that moment he can't place it, though he supposes it really doesn't matter, and so agrees to come down as soon as his Pokemon are healed. Oak smiles that he's glad the young man has his priorities straight, and then tells him that a Corviknight taxi will be outside the Pokemon Center in an hour to take him and his friends directly to Wedgehurst. It is late afternoon when the trio arrive in Wedgehurst, and as they clamber out of the cabin, Bea professes that she finds air travel to be a soft option and a waste of all the training they could have gotten if they'd travelled to Wedgehurst on foot. However, Raihan smirks that he thinks she just doesn't like flying, probably because it made her airsick. Bea coolly retorts that of course she doesn't like flying, she's a fighting type specialist, as if that settles the matter. But before Raihan can get in another bit of teasing, Professor Oak arrives to meet them, and with him is Sonia. Ash now realizes where he knows Professor Magnolia's name from. Chairman Rose mentioned it when they met in Hulbury, and so he greets Sonia warmly, with the orange-haired woman doing the same to him and his friends. Oak is surprised that they know each other, but the group fill him in on their meeting during the walk back to Professor Magnolia's lab. The lab proves to be a bright, spacious building, and waiting for them is an elderly woman who Ash has no doubt is Professor Magnolia. She is welcoming, but not quite as friendly as her granddaughter, with a strictness to her tone that makes Ash think that it would be unwise to anger her. Oak in turn introduces the three guests, and so Magnolia leads them to a sitting room where a trio of starter Pokemon are playing. Magnolia lightly shoos them away before taking a seat and bidding the others to do likewise. She then grins that she supposes Ash must be wondering why she wanted to meet him, and Ash confirms that it had crossed his mind. Magnolia explains that she needs someone she can trust to assist with an aspect of her research that neither she nor Sonia are particularly well equipped for. Ash asks what exactly that is, and Magnolia says they're studying the Dynamax phenomenon, and what they need Ash to do is have as many Dynamax and Gigantamax battles as he can, so they can get first-hand data of the phenomenon. Ash beams that that's the sort of research he likes, and so Magnolia gives him a Rotom phone, adding that she also had planned to give him a Dynamax band, but it seems he's already managed to get his hands on one of those. Sonia then suggests that perhaps they could give him a Pokemon capable of Gigantamaxing, and the older woman asks if she means that one. Sonia nods, and Magnolia sighs that she would have liked to study it a bit more before entrusting it to a trainer, but she supposes that since Ash is assisting with their research, he can just pass on any data he gathers along the way. Ash, Raihan, and Bee all look very confused by this cryptic talk, and so Professor Oak explains that part of what he has been doing here in Wedgehurst is helping Professor Magnolia study a strange Scorbunny that recently came into her care. No one knows where it came from, but what they do know is that sometimes during battle its eyes change colour, and this seems to empower its attacks. Ash says that sounds awesome, and Sonia says she's glad he thinks so, since they would like him to take Scorbunny with him and try to work with it to get to the bottom of all the mysteries surrounding it. Ash says he'd be happy to, and so Magnolia calls the fire type over. However, it seems that Scorbunny has other ideas, as when Magnolia tells it that Ash is going to be its trainer, the rabbit moons him, then runs off at top speed. The professors call for it to stop, but it's already out the door, and so Ash gives chase, following the trail of fiery footprints it leaves behind. Scorbunny, to its credit, is fast for something with such short legs, already being out of sight by the time Ash bursts from the lab, and so he is forced to follow it up a path, and then past a small cluster of houses. By now he has gained on it little, and so he watches as the mischievous Pokemon kicks open a gate and vanishes among a thicket of trees. Ash follows and soon finds that Scorbunny's footprints have mysteriously vanished. Looking around, he hears the little Pokemon's cry from up ahead, and so runs forth to find an Orbeetle has Scorbunny in its psychic grip, slamming the rabbit Pokemon into the ground repeatedly, as seeming punishment for having entered its territory uninvited. Terrified tears run down Scorbunny's cheeks, and so Ash's Pikachu leap from his shoulder and blasts the bug with Thunderbolt. This hits true and distracts Orbeetle enough that it releases Scorbunny, allowing it to drop to the ground and then get to its feet. Ash tells Scorbunny to run, but the fire type wants to battle, and so leaps into the air, slamming into its attacker with Tackle. As it does so, Ash sees what Professor Oak was talking about, as its eyes briefly turn white. Orbeetle has no interest in fighting a 2v1, and so in the face of Pikachu and Scorbunny's attacks, breaks off and flees. When it's gone, Ash runs in to check on the juvenile Pokemon, and in place of its previous sass, now it leaps eagerly into his arms and hugs him. Ash pats the rabbit's head, then asks if it would like to try travelling with him. Scorbunny nods, and so Ash pulls out a Pokeball, tapping the fire type on the head with it, then adding it to his team. By now dusk has fallen and heavy fog is up to Ash's ankles. Not wanting to get lost, he helps Pikachu back onto his shoulder, then turns to leave, satisfied in the knowledge that Scorbunny is safe. However, before he can even take a single step, the fog suddenly rises up, engulfing Ash and Pikachu, so they can barely see a foot in front of them. Through the gloom and shadow they do manage to make out something, the silhouette of a four-legged form that looks vaguely canine in nature. Then in his head, Ash hears a deep rumbling voice that declares, "You are the one who cuts a path to his dreams. Relentless, fearless, a sword of hope. In the days to come, you will be tested to see if your sword is made of brittle iron that cracks under pressure, flashy gold that is pleasant to behold but good for little else, or the true steel that Galar requires. And should you pass the test, we will meet again on the darkest day." And that's where we'll leave things. What trouble has our young hero found himself in now? Who is the mysterious speaker in his mind? And what does this cryptic message mean? Find out as the journey continues.